I am joined right now by QT Marshall. You know him from his work behind the scenes, on air with All Elite Wrestling. We're going to talk a little bit about ongoing feuds, where you go from here, what you're currently doing, all that fun stuff in between. How you doing today?
Great, man. How are you?
Not too bad. I wanted to start with the nice little shiner you have going on there. It
Sure.
looks like
Yeah.
it's better.
Yeah, it's
Like,
almost gone.
yeah.
I always tell everyone like Wolverine. I had neck surgery in 2016, and I think the timetable they gave me was 9 months to a year. I was wrestling in 5 months, and I was fully fused and everything. So I don't know. I'm just very lucky. I think not drinking or smoking or you know being as healthy as I can be, with the exception of eating a lot of Reese's peanut butter cups. Other than that, I think I'm pretty healthy. So I think it goes a long way.
And yeah, Halloween just happened, so you got to be careful with those.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
always out there. But yeah, if people didn't see when it just happened, you were sporting a pretty puffy face there, so it looks
Yeah.
pretty good. It's
Yeah, it's not bad. Like I said, it adds character. Plus, I mean, the guy that did it was 10 from the Dark Order, who one is my student, and two, I think he got coming from John Moxley that night, a couple days later. So, you
yeah,
know,
yeah. That's what I was going to point that out. Like, you're his professor, his teacher, however, trainer, however you want to call it. But what's the status as far as you getting back in the ring? Are there any restrictions? Is it just this?
no, not at all. We filmed some. We did Dark, and I was at ringside with Aaron Solo and his match with Brian Danielson. And it's hard right now with excuse me, with all the talent that we have. There's so few spots on TV, of course. And but yeah, I mean, we're just not in a rush and just trying to figure out what's next for us and what we can do and what's fun as well. I've always said this, like me personally, I knew the factory is more about the other guys as well. So like I'm trying to, see, and I think there's going to be some stuff on the upcoming darks up ahead that they're going to be a part of and stuff like that. So I'm not really in a rush. Of course, when something does come up, I'm always ready. But we are going back to the drawing board. We're actually all three of us, because Anthony's not here right now. But Solo and Camarado and myself, we're all driving to St. Louis in about, I don't know, 45 minutes from now, maybe. No,
Yeah,
so we'll be driving over there. So that's kind of when we do a lot of our brainstorming and stuff like that and trying to figure out what's next.
yeah, but I think part of the benefit is you're not being overexposed. I guess I would say, like, you have some time in between some of these feuds, and you worked with Cody, and then you worked with Paul Wight, and now with this, like, this is, I was asking more as far as a concern for injury, but
Sure.
you're not being forced onto TV every week, where now, like, when you come back, it's like, oh man, he's, like, kind of like the right reaction, instead of like,
Right.
oh, he's,
Yeah. I'm a huge believer in not forcing anything. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like you said, that's the good part. Um, we're not overexposing anyone really on Dynamite that's not needing to be exposed. Let's put it that way, right? Like the guys that are on TV are most of the ones that need to be on our TV for ratings purposes and business purposes. And like I said, it's just a matter of finding the right thing. And I'm a huge believer also in not wrestling without a story. Um, I know, of course, at the end of the day, the wins and losses do matter. So there is always a story in your wrestling match. It's just a lot harder if you know to get a fan emotionally invested. But we do get great reactions when we go out there, and that's the positive. The fans do, whether they genuinely hate us or they like to boo. It doesn't matter to me as long as they make noise. So
the story is interesting. At least I want to talk specifically about the Paul White match now,
sure.
because the feedback, I mean, at least from my perspective, it was maybe split. I know you in the past have said, I'm getting a reaction, so I'm doing my job,
Yeah,
which is good. But I feel like people maybe get hung up on the earlier comments about AEW being like sports centric and all that, because what I saw from that was really like a classic sort of 80s wrestling feud where you're, you know, egging this guy on, and then finally the guy gets his hands on you and it's like, well, what did you expect from the match? He's gonna cream him. Like
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like at the end of the day, there was a lot that went into that. And it's Paul Wight, man. Like we signed Paul Wight. He is an active wrestler, or we can't not let him wrestle. But at the same time, I think you do have to be, a little careful of who he wrestles and, what kind of guys he's working with, because one, from a trust factor for him, right? Because, those hip surgeries were real. You know what I mean? Those were things that actually did happen to him. So he has to trust who he's working with. And on top of that, the fans have to enjoy what's going on. And like I said, I don't believe in listening to the people on Twitter, because if we have 1 million views a week, over 1 million, and there's 17 people that are going to comment on the graphic that goes up that says, QT is on Dynamite, I don't care about those people, because those people aren't buying the ticket anyway. You know what I mean? So like the ones that are in the live arena that are booing and getting into the stuff that we did, that's what I listen to, because that's pro wrestling at the end of the day. Like the audience reaction is the only thing that matters. From a business perspective, of course, the rating matters as well, which is, thanks to Paul, like the rating was always good. Like Paul Wight is who he is. He's a major star in professional wrestling. So, for the fans that didn't like it or didn't want to see it or whatever, then sure, don't watch it. But, if you look at the actual numbers, I'm just talking about straight numbers, people watched it.
Now, I don't know if this came up or not, but did you guys ever talk, like you're talking about the trust factor? Did it ever come up like, oh, you're a Monster Factory guy? Like, oh yeah, I was there too. Like, what was any of that ever?
No. I mean, a lot of it was more, just, hey, this is the idea, and this is kind of the route that everyone wants to go. And I think it was more or less like he and Tony probably had decided what route they kind of needed to make it all work. And they just needed somebody to do it. And I had just gotten done with Cody, and I was working on Elevation. And I remember like asking him, hey, there's a fun spot that Scott Hall used to do all the time, block the hip toss choke slam, and then he would mock the Giant. And and I said like, hey, do you mind if and he's like, I've been waiting for somebody to call me out, like I'm just sitting here, you know what I mean? Like yeah. and people are just scared, they're scared. And I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna will this into fruition, not realizing that there was already like something kind of in place. They were just looking for the right person. So it worked out at the end. Like I said, I got a pay-per-view match out of it. Not that that's all it's about, but my guys got on pay-per-view. I had students that were part of angles that have never been on TV before, and they got to do stuff like, you know what I mean? Like it was fun. Tony Schiavone's kid got in there that, you know what I mean? There's just a lot of fun stuff that I think, the general audience did enjoy. Like I said, the small minority audience, if they didn't like it, it is what it is. But, at the end of the day, I heard the reactions from the audience. And like I said, that's what I go by.
Yeah. And I'll make the comparison myself, but I think you're sort of seeing some of that with the America Top Team stuff. Like there might be a vocal minority, but it is speaking and working with a different part of the audience. So
yeah, I think, again, I don't listen to, it was hard during COVID to gauge the reaction, because there was no fans, and the small amount that we did have in Jacksonville, they were just happy to be there, I think, and we were happy to have them. So it was like great reactions no matter what. But at the same time, like I remember when we started to go back to the live arenas, like, oh man, this is the real test. Like I remember telling the factory guys, this is the test right here. If the people leave, if they get up and walk away, like, it might not be good, but if they boo, like we're doing our job. So.
One of the things I did want to ask is, you've played these various gimmicks over the years, if you want to call them that. You were God's Gift. You had the apple with the, Allie and the bunny, and now you're taking a more, I guess, real life approach, if you want to call it that. I don't really think it's a stereotype, but it is playing into that Italian.
Yeah, I'm an Italian from New Jersey that is very honest, and and people don't like it. It is what it is. That's who I am. It's who I'll always be. God's gift to professional wrestling. The reason that came up, I used to, when I went to Ring of Honor, I was considered, like, my moniker was naturally gifted. And the reason for that is I can do borderline anything, like in the ring. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it. That doesn't mean I'm going to, unless my match calls for it, like you've seen it when I'm, at All Out 2 years ago or a year ago, I can do a front flip over the top rope and land on my feet. Like there's things I can do that people are like, oh man, I didn't know you could do that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to do it. So that was one of the things that I always said, like, I'm naturally gifted at this. This is just the one thing in my life that I am really good at, like the fundamental aspect of it. Now connecting with the audience, all that other stuff, that's a whole nother thing. But, so then the apple thing was just because we were on road to, and I was eating apples trying to get in shape because I always knew I wanted to wrestle. So I, instead of eating candy, like I said before, I started eating apples. And then Cody was like, the internet's, YouTube viewers are starting to catch on in this apple thing. Like you should. And because I'm naturally gifted in a lot of sports, I could throw it up behind my back and catch it. It's just kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's what I'll do at my entrance. Like, plus we could make a Q out of the apple sign and all this stuff. So, it was just something for the audience to know, oh, that's that apple guy. You know what I mean? But it was never what I loved to do. Then I started teaming with Dustin. I started phasing that out of it. But this is more me, I don't mind being hated. Even backstage sometimes, like if I have to deliver bad news, I'm the guy that can do it because I don't mind. Like I'm very honest. I don't beat around the bush. I just tell you exactly what it is. And we've had extra talent here before where I've worked with and I've had to deliver the news of like, and they're like, yeah, I'm just here to try to get a job. And I'm like, I'm letting you know right now, like the spot that you're trying to do in this match is not going to get you a job. And it comes off very rude and abrasive, but I'd rather be honest than let someone go out there and risk their life for something that I know deep down is not going to, help them out. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, you just have to know who I am and how I am. And once you do that, everyone's like, man, QT is the greatest guy in the world. And but I also keep my circle small as well, because especially with the position that, we're in AEW and just everything in general, like I've learned over the years that you can't trust everybody.
Yeah, no, it's good that you put it that way, because so often people want to say like, oh, he's, like you are Italian and you are from New Jersey, but you're playing like this. And, they want to put that label on it.
Yeah. I'm not going to come out there with a fake accent. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not, it's just not me. I won't do that because again, that's fake. I would just rather be me. Every story I think I've ever told was me. Like, even the Cody stuff, like, yeah, there are nights when, I'm up till 2 nights ago, literally 2 nights ago, I'm up, I go upstairs to talk to Tony at, 2 a.m. I'm there till 5:30. And then I go back to the room and I format everything. And it's like, everyone else is sleeping. You know what I mean? Like, then they wake up for Dynamite and like, everyone's happy. And like, QT, why you look so tired? Well, I'm up all night. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, at the end of the day, so having that in part of my promo, people are like, some people knocked it. It's like, how could you knock it? It's real. Like, I don't care what you say. Like, I'm telling the truth out there, So, and it's much easier to tell the truth than to try to come up with some fake story to get people to care.
Yeah. And I'll put this in the simplest terms I can try to. If you've ever stayed up late and worked and you saw other people that weren't working, but you're still there, you can relate to what you say, whether it's on the level that you're doing it or on a basic level, or just that other person's not working as hard as me. I mean, you can understand it.
Right before AEW, I was, running the school, but I also worked at Home Depot overnight just for extra money. And they pay you hourly, of course. And I never wanted a job that paid you hourly. I just never believed in it. I believe I'm a hustler. So like cash, waiting tables, bartending, whatever I could do where no one could control how much money I make. And I'm there and it's like, I work really fast. I try to get the job done because I'm always looking for the next thing. And all of a sudden I'd be finished. They're like, hey, can you go help out Nathan? I'm like, why do I have to help Nathan? They're like, well, because, that's what happens when you're done with your stuff. You have to go help the other guy stock the shelves. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like because he's going slow, I have to do extra work, but still get paid the same. I was there for about 2 weeks. So, let's put it that way.
I worked at Home Depot. It was that way.
Yeah.
I liked it, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'm a people person too. So like people just wearing headphones and stocking shelves kind of made me go crazy. Mm-hmm. I think one time I spent more than I made in the hour in the break room on the vending machine. So I remember texting my wife, like, I'm pretty depressed right now. I think I just spent $14 in the vending machine, so I'm gonna just quit.
Mm.
She's like, yeah, do what you got to do. We'll be fine. It's like, all right. And that was it.
Now you've obviously moved on to bigger and better things.
Thank
No
God.
offense, I still shop at Home Depot. No offense to you guys.
Yeah, sure, sure. Of
But
course.
you kind of highlighted some of your journey in your documentary. I got a chance to talk to Frank last year. Just, I mean, do you look back at a certain point? Like, do you say like, oh, here's where the story left off, and here's kind of like what I can show people on TV so far, or like, do you have like any sort of way to look at or measure your success if you want to look at it as like the documentary ended here, here's what I've done so far?
Yeah, I mean, when I look back, I just think about at that time in my life, I was just, I had neck surgery. I was going through a bunch of stuff. And there's also no alternative to what we do. So it was kind of like, hey, it's WWE or bust, right? And so that was a little harder for me. But at the same time, I remember in 2017, the end of 2016, I told my wife, hey, we're going to move to Atlanta and I'm just going to open a wrestling school. And she's like, okay, and what? And I'm like, yeah, we'll just see what happens. And she's like, okay, and like, is that going to be successful? I was like, it will. She's like, okay, but there's multiple schools down there. I was like, doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to coach. And I know a lot of wrestling schools don't coach, and not knocking certain schools, but a lot of them don't. It's it's everyone thinks this is like an easy way to make money, and it's not. It's very difficult. But at the same time, if you actually coach people, and then when you get people that are worth helping out, you do help them out. And I always thought of that approach, like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to help everyone I can. And eventually it'll come back to me. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I already tried the other way where I only tried to help myself. And that really didn't work out too well. So let's see how this goes. At the worst case, I'm just going to help a bunch of people and then no one ever helps me. And it is what it is. And within, less than 2 years, there's AEW and, somebody helped me. So, yeah. So, I mean, like, I do look back and think, but I also think that there's a lot of mistakes that I made, young and naive and not understanding how a lot of the inner workings of life worked. So, I got a lot of life experience in between. And, like I said, part 2 would be a really cool story, but it hasn't ended yet. So I don't want to jinx it. I want to keep going.
Yeah, there you go. If you want to look at recent history, there's Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. They're telling the middle part of the story. So maybe you could do that, but let's wait.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, the middle is just the grind of opening the wrestling school and, and working at Home Depot and Longhorn during the day and the school at midday. And then, Home Depot at night. It was a grind, but like I said, I made it work and I enjoyed it. So it was like going to the school was not work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whether I had 1 student or 10, it didn't matter to me.
Yeah. And you hear it so often that, it's cliche, but find something you love. You'll never work a day in your life. So
honestly, I've never wanted to type on the computer for a job. And that's what I do backstage. I don't mind it at all. Mm-hmm. I love it. Like, people, you got to change a second here or there. And you have to go through the whole format. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't mind. Like, this is wrestling. Like, I don't have to be at Home Depot. That's literally what I tell everybody. And I'm not knocking Home Depot, but compared to what I do, like, man, it's night and day.
I have a couple more questions before I get you out of here.
Sure.
The feuds with Cody and Paul Wight, how would you say they best helped you grow as a wrestler?
One, I think the confidence level of, like, again, this not to sound, I've been training for a very long time. So to know, like, I know I can go in the ring and wrestle. I'm not worried about that. I can remember stuff. I can call it out there. Like, I'm good at that aspect of it, but also like just having the confidence now to know that the number does well, right? Cause it is a business. The boss is happy, like everyone thinks Cody made this feud because he's my friend. They couldn't be farther from the truth. Literally, you know what I mean? Like, Tony's the boss. Tony told us what he wanted to do and we did it. And we tried to do it the best way we could and tell our story. And, it was a lot of little things were our ideas, like the way we did it, Arn, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, like, Cody didn't lobby for me to feud with him. You know what I mean? Like, how does that affect our school business? Like there's a lot of stuff that, goes into it where it's like, but at the same time, elevating the other guys and Anthony Ogogo and stuff like that, it did make sense. So, but I was scared, like, okay, well, I don't know how this is going to work. And, the exhibition match we did, like the first part of it kind of didn't do too well at first on the number. But then as soon as the turn happened, everyone shot back and started watching it. So it was like, okay, of course, yeah, no one cares about the exhibition match between two friends. Like it is what it is. But then as soon as the turn happened, the number spiked and we're like, okay, we're off to the races. So it, obviously that's my one concern is I don't want to let Tony down more than anything because this is his business. This is his life. Same way I don't want any of my assistant coaches to let me down at the school. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, that was the biggest thing for me is to, again, know that I could go out there and do the job I'm asked for and not screw up, I guess.
All right. Final question. I know you grew up around Freehold, so that's technically like neutral territory. It's central New Jersey.
Sure.
Is it called pork roll or Taylor ham?
Pork roll.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. I mean, so when I used to work at my family's deli, my mom's, like my stepfather's brother had a deli, and when I was right out of high school, I had to work there, and it's pork roll because you'd write it on the, you'd literally write it on the, you'd fold the tin foil over the sandwich, you'd put a Post-it note on it, and you would put PEC, pork roll, egg and cheese. You didn't have to put the R, it's PEC, and then you'd put SPK, salt, pepper, ketchup. So it's definitely pork roll. Yeah, and I miss it. Living in Atlanta, we don't,
Yeah.
And my wife would probably tell me not to eat it. So,
well, I know when I did live in Orlando for a little bit, and they kind of started getting it down there, but it's still not the same. You want that Taylor brand, but the reason I asked was I lived in Jackson for a while, and yeah, so it was kind of like you would hear both ways, and I'm like, why are you calling? Like, I would question it because I'm from Pennsylvania, but then I moved there, and I would like, why are you calling it like it's pork roll? Like, what is this Taylor ham?
Jackson is we used to say in Freehold, like, I don't go to Jackson. Like we would joke about it, you know what I mean? Like, of course, those were rivals for us. So, but yeah, it's cold up there. It's actually cold here too. I moved to Atlanta.
Yeah. So. Well, I'm lucky. That's where my wife's from. We're still married, so.
Yeah, there you go.
I went to Jackson for a good reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same with me in Freehold, man. I met my wife when I was 8 years old in third grade, and I said when I was 12, I said I'm gonna marry that girl. I don't know how, and we separated for like when I moved to Florida and stuff, like 8 years, and somehow the world works in fun ways. So I tell everybody I have my dream car, I have a brand new Corvette, I have my dream job, I'm a wrestler, and my dream wife. So it's not bad for me. So, and she's very supportive, and yeah, it's good stuff.
There you go. Can't ask for anything else. Want to just say appreciate the time again. Check out